Hello, and welcome back to Kathy Houchins Stories. I'm Kathy Houchins, and I'm delighted that you're here with me today. What would you do if protecting your home meant sacrificing everything? This is the Unveiling of the Truths, the final chapter in the Sisterhood saga, where all the questions find answers and the ultimate sacrifice is made. It is book number 5 in the series. Fair warning, this journey will test everything you thought you knew about loyalty, destiny, and the ultimate price of protecting your loved ones. Now, you learned about the mansion that the sisters bought in last episode. So has now become a sanctuary, home, and a fortress, kind of all in one at one time. Years have passed since the last encounter by the sisters with their beloved, protecting their beloved Bayou, and it's been at peace. Evie stood at the window, staring out at the water just like she normally would when it hit her, that familiar, suffocating sensation that preceded her visions. The blue light appeared, flickering weakly in the darkness, but this time something was terribly wrong. The light was guiding, but it was fading, being swallowed by something. And at the edge of that darkness stood Delgado. Gabriel caught Evie as she gasped back into reality. "What did you see?" he asked, his fear creeping into his voice. "It's coming," Evie whispered. "Something dark. Something bigger than anything we've ever faced before." So she called the sisters. They all got together and gathered at the mansion. And this time, though, it felt different. The threat wasn't just about them anymore. This time, even the blue light wasn't the same, Evie said, explaining to her sisters. It was corrupted. And then I saw him, Delgado and David. They're back. There's something going on. There's something I can't see, but I can feel it. Luna's fists clenched. Delgado's supposed to be in prison. How could he be back? "I don't know," Evie said, shaking her head, "but whatever they're planning, it's tied to Hamp's Bayou. Something big is going to happen." So as the sisters were digesting all this information, a low hum started to vibrate in the mansion walls. It grew louder with each passing second. This was the same sound that Evie heard in her visions. The hum deepened, and then that voice returned, laced with cruel mockery. "Delgado should have been rotting in prison, but found a way to reach them, and he wasn't alone. Let me read what happened when his voice pierced through the sanctuary." I'm going to take it right out of the book here. And it says, Eleanor looked around the room, her expression tight with concern. "What was that?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Evie's breath caught in her throat. She opened her mouth to speak, but before she could utter a word, the lights in the mansion flickered and then went out. The sisters were plunged into darkness. The hum, now a deep, resonating pulse that shook the house's very foundation. And then, from the shadows, a voice spoke, cold, sharp, and all too familiar. "You think it's over, do you?" The sisters froze, their hearts pounding. They knew that voice. It was Delgado. And then, in the darkness, it continued. "You may have thought you were safe, but you're wrong. I've always been here watching, waiting." Okay, so they were hell-bent to find out what's going on, so they started on a research campaign and started digging up all the information they could. Meanwhile, let's go see what happens. How did Delgado and David get out of prison? David, Bella's ex-husband, who had once tried to destroy them, had escaped from prison with help from someone unexpected, Mr. Martin Graves, who really has all the power. He's the lawyer who kind of knows everybody in the system, so he's the guy that's kind of taking care of business here. The prison break was calculated precise. David and Delgado just walked out. Now, in chapter 3 in the book, you'll be able to go through and read all about what happened, how they did that. How was that possible? They actually just walked out. There was a limo waiting at the end of the driveway for them, and they walked out unnoticed. And they weren't even part of the system when they went to try and find them, when the sisters looked for them. You want to get inside info. Also, this is where you're going to find it about David's involvement with Anne in book 1, The Story of Bella. This is where you kind of figure out what happened there and how did that begin. David and Delgado arrive in Hamp's Bayou at a cabin just far enough out of town to be hidden, yet close enough to act when the time was right. Nobody, except Graves, knew they were there. Now, the sisters and Gabriel all met at the mansion to view everything they had uncovered about what Delgado, David, and this man named Graves intended to do in Hamp's Bayou. When, out of nowhere, as they're discussing the information they had, Martin Graves walks right into the mansion, uninvited, and the tension was suffocating. Oh, in page 2, actually page 49, let me read to you what happened there. Okay, let me find out where it starts. Here we go. Speaking of me, are we? Isn't it funny? Here we are, here you are, just like your predecessors, thinking that you have some divine right to protect what isn't yours. Luna stepped forward, her voice sharp. We didn't choose this. We're entrusted with the Nexus to protect it from people like you. Graves' smile grew wider. And what exactly makes you so special? The Guardians took everything from my family. They sealed the Nexus away, locking us out. For generations, we were left with nothing. Eleanor's eyes narrowed. You're willing to destroy everything just to satisfy your family's obsession? Do you even understand what the Nexus holds? I understand more than you think, Graves hissed. The Nexus is a gateway to something far greater than you could even comprehend. The ancestors were close to unlocking it, but the Guardians feared that they wouldn't understand it. After listening to Graves, it appears that the conspiracy went deeper than anyone imagined. Graves' family had been the original rivals of the Guardians, and now he wanted revenge. He wanted to control the Nexus. Well, as soon as Graves leaves, Dacier, the blue light, and Dacier come back. They come into the room and circle the room with the blue light, and Dacier slowly appears. Dear ones, you need to understand something, he addresses them all. The Nexus, Dacier explained, his voice resonating with an ancient authority, is the heart of Hamp's Bayou. It is a convergence of light and dark energies, a wellspring of raw power that maintains the balance between creation and destruction. The sisters exchanged looks like they had no idea. They had protected the grave sites for years, but they never understood the magnitude of what lay beneath that. The Nexus can heal and it can destroy, Dacier continues. If Delgado and his allies gain control of it, they won't just control Hamp's Bayou, they will reshape reality itself. So Eleanor asks, how do we stop them? You must stay unified, Dacier replies. Your bond as sisters is the key. The Nexus can only be defended if you work together. And then Dacier revealed something even more profound. Something that will explain everything about the sisters' connection. This you'll have to read on your own. I can't share that. This is a key factor. As Dacier's figure begins to flicker, he added as he's dissipating into the blue light, guard its power and maintain balance. The sisters all looked at each other and realized that the dreams they'd all shared in their childhood, floating in the blue light, seeing each other's spirits, communicating without words, those weren't just dreams. Those were memories of their time before Earth. The sisters had been chosen by ancient forces. They were sent here, born here, to protect the Nexus from the next when the time came. And the time is now. So the confrontation begins. Let me just kind of say where it's going to start. But the sisters were kind of gathering what all they needed to do and coming up with their plan. And Eleanor came across an old book and opened it up, found a little yellow like journal in there, a little notebook. And inside it was written, and I want to read that on page 77 here. This is really an important statement. Eleanor says, there is a place hidden deep within the Bayou where we once performed the ritual to seal the Nexus. The ritual site has been lost to time, but it holds the key to maintaining the balance. If ever the seal is broken, it is there that it must be restored. The location is marked only by the old oaks standing together like sentinels. Okay, so now Eleanor, or Evie, the seer who has all these visions, says, I remember seeing these tall oaks like sentinels standing around this clearing. And I didn't know what it was, but it's been in my visions before. So without giving too much information away, I'm going to give you some kind of highlights about stuff that happens. All the players end up at the ritual site. The sisters gather the stuff, they get there. David gets there because he needs training. And by the way, David takes care of Delgado, and you're going to need to see what happens there. What happens to David and why what happened. It's just an amazing part of the story. So they have several battles. Over the next few pages, the next couple of scenes, there are several battles back and forth, one between David and Graves, and that ends up with somebody getting swallowed down into the abyss. Opens up into the main clearing there, and this entity comes out with all these tendrils. And so anyway, there's various battles, and finally this entity sits, its red beady eyes get fixed on Bella. Its dark tendrils wrap around her like chains, and she could feel the entity trying to invade her mind, whispering promises of power. Well, let me read you. I just lost my page here, 122. There we go. And I want to read this section of what happens. You are mine, the entity growled. Through you, I will control the Nexus. With a surge of raw determination, Bella focused every ounce of strength within her, her heart pounding as the dark tendrils tightened around her. She could feel the cold, suffocating grip of the entity constricting, threatening to pull her into the abyss. But she wouldn't let it win. Not now, not when everything was on the line. Her body trembled as she summoned the last of her energy and the strength that her sisters were sending her. The power of the Nexus surging through her veins like fire. With a guttural cry, Bella pushed back against the darkness, her connection to the Nexus burning back brighter than ever. The dark tendrils coiled tighter around her, but then, snap. That means the black tendrils that had been wrapped around Bella shattered like brittle glass. Bella had broken free, but now she knew exactly what had to be done. The real battle begins. The rift is growing. Reality is tearing at its seams. The entity is regaining strength, and time is running out. The sisters stood together, knowing that the choices they made in the next moments would determine not just their fate, but the fate of everybody they loved. The sisters knew that they had what they had to do, but the cost, oh my God, the cost, none of them could have ever imagined. What happened next will change everything. You must read it, though, to discover what happens. I won't tell you how the story ends. No, I can't tell you how the story ends because the final chapters of Unveiling the Truths contains revelations, sacrifices, and moments of profound loss and triumph that you must experience for yourself. What I can tell you is this: the mystery of the blue light is finally revealed. The true purpose of the sisters becomes very clear. Difficult choices are made, choices that will break your heart. The balance between light and dark hinges on the balance of everything. And the legacy of the guardians will continue in ways you'll never expect. So the Nexus holds secrets, and when the final battle's over, Hamp's Bayou will never be the same. So thank you for joining me on this journey through the Sisterhood saga. I truly hope you enjoyed the story. If you want to know what really happens at the ritual site, and if you want to understand the true cost of protecting the Nexus, and if you want to discover how the sister story concludes, you'll have to read Unveiling the Truths for yourself. I promise you, it's worth it. So the next episode to be on the channel here will be a collective thought on the story and answering questions you may have. I've received a few. It will be a recap, basically, and I'll probably introduce some future stories that may be coming out. Until next time, this is Kathy Houchins reminding you that some stories can only be experienced, never told. Have a great day.